Hey there, welcome to Gnomon School of Visual Effects, where we're live streaming from Hollywood, California. My name is Den Johnson, and I'm working in the placement department here at Gnomon, where I'm going to brag, we've got a 94% placement rate. And part of that is because some of the women that we have on tonight's panel are tied directly to Gnomon, so we're in constant communication with people in the industry. So with that said, I want to let you know that the live stream viewers out there, you can ask questions at any time with hashtag Gnomon. That's hashtag GNOMON. And just want to let you know that tonight's event has been put together as a collaborative event with women in animation. So to kick off tonight's event, we're going to welcome a representative from Women in Animation to the stage to tell us a little bit about who they are, what initiatives they're working on, and how people can get involved. So please give it up for Evie Saucedo. Thanks so much, Evie Saucedo.
Hello, how's everybody doing today? Awesome, awesome, awesome. Right, well, I'm Evie, and this is Laura, and we are from Women in Animation. Unfortunately, we are not allowed to stream our screen, so for those of you on live stream, we can't show it to you, but we can talk to you about it. So here we go. We are Women in Animation, and what are we? Who are we? We are a international nonprofit organization, and we are here. Why we're here? There we go. So currently in the animation industry, especially in schools such as Gnomon or any other animation-related school, 60% of the population in the school is women. However, once we get into the industry, it gets down to about 20%. Which is really scary, kind of scary. We're not sure why this is, but we do work closely with the Animation Guild to kind of get numbers and find out why this is happening and how we can kind of help it out. But that's why we're here. That's why Women in Animation exists. Same thing, more fancy charts. The higher up the ladder you go, the less that number gets. Unfortunately, at the top of the ladder, for producers and directors, it's as low as 10%, which, again, we don't know why this is happening, but we're here to kind of remedy the situation. And our mission statement is 50-50 by 2025, which basically means we want 50% of the animation workforce to be women by the year 2025. And why does this matter? We envision a world in which women share fully in the creation, production, and rewards of animation, resulting in richer, more diverse entertainment and media that move our culture forward. And who are we? We are all volunteers. Like I said, we are a nonprofit organization, so everybody in Women in Animation does this of their own free will, on our own time. We have representatives from a ton of major studios. You never know who you're going to meet at one of these Women in Animation events. Like, I go to a lot of them, and I've met so many great people. Here's our board. And our board of directors for Women in Animation. And as you can see, they're from all over the place, all studios. How we will change the entertainment industry. We have lots of networking events. We do a lot of networking mixers. So just, trying to get everybody to meet everybody else, bringing everybody together. We also have a really new mentorship program. It's currently going through its first stages. This is kind of meant for women who feel like they are stuck in the same place and that they can't move up. So we are trying to pair them with experts in their field to kind of help them achieve their goals and dreams. So that's a really cool program that we have. It's okay. And Laura, would you like to speak about educational programs?
Sure. So we have a lot of different programming through Women in Animation. One of the main things we want to focus on is the education that you might not be getting at school. So maybe education about how studios work. So we have a lot of panels. We just recently, last week, had a Zootopia panel on the Disney feature lot. So we saw the movie, and then afterwards we had key women who worked on the film talk to us about the process, working in the studio versus, you know, what they might do at home, as well as talking about how their job and how being women kind of correlate, which is always really interesting to see. And then we have Studio. You might not think this is like up your alley, but we have a super active voiceover group. What this means for you guys, if you're doing animations, we have a ton of really talented voiceover people who are looking to practice. So if you are into animation or you're making shorts, this is a good resource for you to have if you want to learn about voiceover, as well as finding resources and everyone learning together. Some more panels we have. Recently, we've had a panel on women directors, editors, character development, copyright law, as well as contracts, which is something that's not always talked about. You might not know about getting your first job, what you need to know in your contract before you sign it, which is really important. We have screenings of both major feature films and indie films, as well as short films. One of the big things they're trying to focus on is the legacy of women in animation, especially in the beginning. If you look at like Disney days of ink and cell painters and Mary Blair, these women weren't really well known until recently. So Women in Animation is really doing an initiative to find out and get these stories from these women who worked on these films behind the scenes. So that's something we're really focused on right now. And students, which is some of you guys, and some of you guys are probably grads, and some of you guys are just entertainment folk. But we believe that students is the prime people we should be focusing on.
Yep, and as well, we have started a scholarship. It is called the Phyllis Craig Scholarship. And what it is, it's a $1,000 scholarship. And to be eligible, you have to be 18 years or older, you have to be a full-time student, and you have to have an interest in animation after you graduate, which is pretty much all of you guys.
And one more thing, I know Gnomon's international. It's only for U.S. citizens, so that's one other thing.
That as well. Research, measuring our progress. As I said before, we work closely with the Animation Guild in terms of getting hard science and numbers. How are we doing? Women in Animation is doing very well. We started off very small, only 120 members, and we are now up to 1,282 members. So we hope to also see you on this fancy chart. Who can be a member? Anyone who believes in WIA's mission and vision statements can join. So if you believe that women should have equal representation by the year 2025, then you should absolutely join us. As well, we get this question a lot. Can men join Women in Animation? And the answer is absolutely yes. We love our male members, and we highly encourage you all to join. Student membership is $25, and we always joke around that that's the price of 2 pizzas in LA. So if you can afford 2 pizzas, you can totally afford a Women in Animation membership. And general professional membership is $50.
And actually today, since it's International Women's Day, I just saw an email go out about this. Our membership for professionals, our general membership is only $40. So there is a discount today only, and then there's like a coupon code if you go onto our website. But for those who are interested.
And like I said before, we are international. We have chapters in Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, Toronto, Dublin, Paris, India, and lots of other places. And if there isn't a chapter near you for all of the people on Livestream right now, feel free to reach out to us because we are always open and we are more than happy to open up a chapter near you if you want us there.
All right. So the local Los Angeles student animation is starting our student chapter. So this is really the first chapter of Women in Animation that's focusing and having a special branch just for student membership. This is the board. So obviously there's me and there's Evie, and we have some other amazing women on someone who is not Lauren Pillay. I'm sorry, Lauren. But so it's all made of local people in Los Angeles. These are some of our events, and as you notice, some local faces. So we have huge turnouts for our events. For you guys, this means more people to network with, more people to meet, to be inspired with, and to really form a supportive network. In animation, it's not just about finding the job on a job board. It's about the people you know and the connections you have and the people who can refer you and help you out.
And as well, I just want to say, we had our first official event as the student committee. We had it at Disney, and we had a panel of a bunch of recruiters from Disney, and it was just so much fun. And they had so much fun that they stayed after for like hours just talking to the students. So, I mean, it really is a blast, and I have a lot of fun going to these, and I've met so many great people, so that alone makes it worth it.
I do really have to say that was an incredible event. The Disney recruiters stayed 3 hours after the end of the event. Like, Disney kicked us out. So all the resources of the women who are on the board and their contacts are really your contacts within the organization. They give you access to these people that you might normally have to fight for. So.
Oh, there's me.
These are the recruiters from the...
Yep, and we also go to, we've been to SIGGRAPH a couple times. Recently we were at CTN Expo, and we had a booth there. So we do show up at a lot of places, so usually if there's an expo, you can find us there. Yep, and the Phyllis Craig Scholarship, we already talked about. Submissions will be accepted starting January 15th, so it already started, and the deadline for applications is April 29th. So you guys still have time to apply for that scholarship. And as well, we like to do outreach at many schools. Gnomon, right now. We go to Arts Center, AFI, Art Institute of California, CalArts, and so many other schools. So if you would like us to come to your school, just, again, reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy.
All right, more slides. This one, so before we briefly talked about a mentorship program, that one, like Evie said, is primarily focused on professionals looking to find a foothold into, more of a future, storyboard artists trying to become directors. We're also looking to launch a student mentorship, which is kind of in the works, and our student membership programming is completely different from general programming. So we're really looking to try and harness things for students. So we're looking at professional development, maybe interview skills or real critiques, social and networking. We know sometimes animation people might not be the most outgoing, so that's something we want to help foster, as well as getting you guys into studios you might normally not be able to enter, meeting people you might not normally be able to meet. And you'll be able to find us at conferences, like she said, SIGGRAPH, CTN. Internationally, I know we're going to Ottawa and ANSI and pretty much any place that they can go. So This is just kind of like a rough idea. Not all of these, this is our schedule for last year. Not all of these events actually happened, which is kind of how it goes. But we are really shooting to try and do as much as we can. We are looking at trying to help you guys understand work pipelines, how to market yourself, doing resume interview workshops, Zootopia screenings, how to submit your work to student film festivals and get noticed. We also have a Facebook page because we're trying to be modern. So please, if you are interested in WIA at all, find our Women in Animation Facebook page, as well as our Women in Animation student page. Both are slightly different and aimed towards different things. But the more people we have on it, the more we can kind of get the message out, let you guys know about events, and the more that we can connect you to each other. So join us. We have a website, womeninanimation.org. So if you are interested, you can always check us out there. And if you are interested in joining, you can always find us at the back at the end of the night.
Yep. So like Laura said, if you guys are interested in joining, we will be in the back of the room, as well as after the event. We have a little booth set up so we can sign you guys up for memberships after our panel of amazing ladies. And for those of you on live stream, you can sign up on our website, womeninanimation.org. And I just want to thank Gnomon for allowing us to be here, and you guys for listening to our talk. And I will hand the mic over so that we can get to our panel. Thank you guys so much.
Awesome. Let's give it up for Evie and Lauren of Women in Animation. Thanks so much, guys. I do want to let our live stream viewers know if you have a question to just hashtag Gnomon. Give us your question. That's hashtag GNOMON. So I want to welcome to the stage our next guest tonight. She's going to be our guest host. She is amazing, award-winning journalist of The Hollywood Reporter, Carolyn Giardina. Give it up for Carolyn Giardina.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Before I introduce our speakers, I just want to get a sense of who is in our crowd tonight. Could you raise your hand if you are a student at Gnomon? Okay, a lot of you. Or students at other schools? Okay. And how many of you are already working in the business professionally? Okay, we've got a great mix. Okay. Well, to give you an idea what we're going to do, we're going to hear from each of our speakers. We're going to have some conversation, and save your questions, please, because at the end we're going to have a Q&A with everybody. And I'm going to start by introducing our first speaker, who is Melissa Annabello. She's an environment artist at Naughty Dog, and her credits include Uncharted 2, 3, and 4. Please join me in welcoming Melissa.
Hello. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to play some slides so I can talk freely. Thank you so much for having us here. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. You kind of covered the first 3 sentences of my introduction. But I'm Melissa. I'm an environment artist at Naughty Dog. In the last 7 years, I've had the privilege of working on Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3, The Last of Us, and we're currently, right now, heavily trying to finish up Uncharted 4. Within the environment team, I'm a texture and shader artist specifically. And since we hand paint our textures at Naughty Dog, that means I'm going to be spending a lot of my time working in ZBrush, Photoshop, Substance Designer, and our wonderful proprietary shader software. As a texture artist, I'm also going to be responsible for doing the UVs on my models, applying the shaders, doing the vertex colors, and also having the final integration of our outsourced assets that are in my level. So I'm going to be giving a lot of feedback on those pieces as they're working their way through the pipeline, from initial UV feedback to shader work, and making sure that all the masks and maps are accurate so that when I bring them home into my level, they are going to be integrated seamlessly with the rest of the art. Like most people who are doing art, I grew up making macaroni art and drawing and painting a lot, but I also had a big decision because I was really interested in science, but I was also really interested in doing something creative. So I had to choose. And I chose to do something creative because I thought long-term that was going to be what was most rewarding for me. I got my bachelor's degree from the University of Michigan after I requested the dean to give me permission to create my own major and curriculum because they just didn't have what I wanted. It was all fine arts, and that was fine and well, but I wanted something different. So when that was kind of put in state, I was allowed to take classes in the engineering department and have those count towards my major. And so I started taking tech classes, scripting, working with interactive art, making scripts for things made out of electronics to interface with humans, and learning how to NURBS model. And halfway through my first NURBS motorcycle, I wanted to kill myself. And I also thought, wow, okay, this is something creative that has a purpose, and I could do this for real. And I was sold. I took classes doing virtual reality modeling, and I got to make my first game when I was in college that was also in VR, which was way long before Oculus was even probably thought of. And that was really exciting for me. But after I finished my bachelor's degree, I had all this fine art, and I had all this school and all this knowledge, but it still wasn't enough to break into the industry. I probably couldn't have even been qualified to make coffee for the people working in, dino trucks and working at Disney, Like, I probably wouldn't have been able to be giving these people coffee. So I took a year to study on my own, and, digital tutors, calling and emailing everyone I've ever met who did 3D and asked them for help, and it still wasn't enough after a year. So I decided to look up, and I found Gnomon, and I completed the certificate program here, the full-time CG program, and 2 months after finishing, I was working on Uncharted 2 at Naughty Dog, and now I'm here with all of you guys.
Could you elaborate a little bit about how you, after you finished your studies, you made the leap? How did you find your first job?
I was actually kind of like in the right place at the right time. I found out with a lot of companies, it really is about when they need people, how desperate they are for people, and if they're looking out. And I happened to be, funny enough, in the office at Gnomon when Candace Walker from Naughty Dog sent an email looking for entry-level people to help finish up on Uncharted 2. And they looked at me and they were like, hey, you're a modeler. And I'm like, yes, I can do those things. And I replied to the email quickly with whatever links to my website that was currently in state, and took a test, and that was it.
Okay. And you talked a little bit about your interest in science, but what do you think that has brought to your career?
I think that in the long run, it really helped push my technical side, and that kind of satiated that. Like, I still love science and biology, and I watch a lot of documentaries, but that kind of science and math technical part really helped fuel my desire to learn how to script, even though it's very remedial, but every little bit helps.
And for games specifically, what are some of the key skill sets that you think people should focus on if that's an area that they want to get into?
I think it really probably depends on which part of games, because there's design, there's audio, there's in-game art, there's cinematics, there's lighting, like, there's so many different components. So I would say the best thing to do would just really assess where you want to go, and if it is art, like an artistic capacity like myself, being able to know the basics are so much more important, I think, than a lot of people give credit to.
Great. Well, why don't you come over, you're going to join me over here, and I'm going to introduce our next speaker. Leticia Cow is next. She's a texture artist at Nickelodeon. She's currently working on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle series. So,
hey, hello. I'm Leticia. Let me open my slide here real quick. Okay. All right, so thank you so much for being here, guys. Thank you, Women in Animation. Thank you, Gnomon. And I need to say something. I was in that gallery, and I didn't know if you feel humbled, but I was like really intimidated. Like, what am I even doing here? So good job, guys. You're killing it. So, okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about me, like how did I get where I am right now. So I was born in Brazil, in São Paulo, so I'm also here not only representing women, but also the international people. I studied at Gnomon. I graduated 3 years ago. Now I work at Nickelodeon, like you know. And I not only texture, but I also draw and paint a lot. This is my most famous work. You probably saw it around. So what influenced me to make art from the beginning is, since I was a little kid, I loved manga. all of these ones right here. I started just drawing this every day. Like, I would watch it and I would want to imitate that. I was very young. I think what influenced me the most was my mom. She's Asian, so I guess that kind of helped. These are some really, really old drawings that I did, like how I started. It was really bad, really bad. So nobody's born talented. It got a little better, you know. I sent this to Brian, actually, when I was applying to Gnomon, and he was like, yeah, that's not going to do it. I was rejected the first time I applied here, but, you know, that happens. This is actually something that I did after Gnomon, just to show you, like, how important anatomy is, and color theory, all of that stuff. It made me do a lot better. So how I got there? I was drawing all this manga and stuff, and I kind of wanted to be an animator because of that. So because I was in Brazil, there wasn't much at the time. I was looking everywhere for an animation school. I really wanted to be an animator, and they didn't have any 2D animation schools, only 3D. So that's what I did. I went to 3D instead. I went to a school called Milieu. It was a cinema school. This was my very first 3D character. Another, like, all really, really old models that I did while I was there. I learned a lot. This was a generalist course, so I did animation, I did texture modeling, I did everything. So while I was there, I kind of decided, okay, I don't think I really like animation. I kind of like modeling a little more. So I kind of went with that, and I started this animation short and everything. That's actually when I realized, okay, no animation. Sorry, you can't do that. This is a little bit more of that short. The rig, I did rigs and everything. So I pretty much started as a generalist, and I think that's really helpful for anything you want to do. Even if you want to specialize in something, I think being a generalist starting as a generalist is really helpful. This was one of the models that I did because I saw a modeling ZBrush class. This was my first ZBrush model, and I noticed at this class that I was the only one painting all my models. And I really enjoyed it. It was actually my favorite part. So I realized maybe I should be a texture artist instead. And that's what happened. So I went to Gnomon. Actually, how I went to Gnomon is I was at that school in Brazil. And I knew I wanted to study abroad. And I asked around about schools, and I knew about this one school in Vancouver. And I asked my teachers about it because they studied there. They were like, no, don't go there. Go to Gnomon because that's better. So, and I ended up trying, and, I applied once, I failed, and then I did my best to try it again, and I finally got in. And this is some of the work that I ended up doing here. This was one of the texturing classes. Yeah. This was, I think, the Viri class. Another look dev class. So it was amazing. Like I love this school. Yeah, this one was done in the Demorial class. Demorial, you're gonna love that class if you're here. I didn't model this, I just textured. The modeler was Larissa. She was with me in the same class. And, yeah, I like to play with her a lot. That was fun. So after Gnomon, I got this job at a poster company for about 6 months while I was here with my work permit. And I did all this note for most of the frozen posters. I textured Olaf in this one because we just received a blank model of him. So that was fun. I learned a lot doing this. I did this note here again. I textured and lit the Dragon Steel logo, which I'm very proud of. And then, well, I didn't get to Nickelodeon right after. The OPT ended, that's my work permit, and I kind of had to go back to Brazil for a while. I stayed there for 5 months, and I ended up getting married to the person who I was dating while I was at Gnomon, which was great. I'm very happy about it. But thanks to that, I was able to come back and continue with my dream. Yeah. You know, I came back and while I was trying to get my work permit, I couldn't get a job, but I was applying to many places anyway. I got rejected many times, and I guess, like they say, I was at the right time, at the right place at the right time. And Nickelodeon needed a texture artist, and you know, I applied, and we had friends there and everything who helped. And this is why we say you have to know people. It's really hard to get a job if you don't know anybody. So this was the main thing for me. I knew somebody that was there, and I asked for help, and they helped me get there. And they ended up getting an interview. They really liked my work, and here I am. So very happy about it. I love my job. So yeah.
What were some of your artistic influences that you feel like you brought with you from Brazil?
Can you say again? I'm sorry.
Some of your artistic influences that you feel like you brought with you.
That I brought with me. Well, I always really liked. It's more like. I'm sorry, I don't know how to explain that. Well, I really liked anything that was very colorful. So any artist that would show that, like, they would use color very well. And of course, like, Disney was a great inspiration for me, especially while I was studying here. And I think, you know, color was always my thing. So, yeah.
How familiar were you with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle franchise when you came?
I was a little familiar, honestly. I did end up learning more about it after getting this job, and I really love it now. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. Well, why don't you come join us?
Okay.
Next, we have Lauren Zilka Pila, and she's lead texture artist at DreamWorks Animation, including on the upcoming, on Dinotrux.
Hey everyone, thank you for coming tonight. I don't have a lot of images to show, but so I'll just start off with, is that as big as it gets? Before I started going to Gnomon, I was an interior designer and a muralist for 5 years, and I just wasn't getting what I wanted to from doing that. I love painting, and it was wonderful to do that every day, but it was always just the same, job to job to job, and I wanted to be a part of something bigger, a part of a team, working with more people to create something greater than what I could create on my own. I took a class just by chance here at Gnomon, and I just loved it, and I decided to go to school full-time. So worked very hard for 2 years while I was here, and then finished school January 2009. I was very lucky to have the opportunity to work on the movie 2012, which is what this image is from. I modeled this parking structure here. So it was a lot of fun to work on. The movie might not have been the greatest movie, but the visual effects were really cool, and everybody that worked on it worked really hard. I jumped around a little bit after I finished school. I was actually a lab tech here for a while, and it took me a little bit to find my first job. So after about 5 months, I got hired as a contract environment artist. And first, I worked on this really funny SpongeBob game, which was really silly, but it was a lot of fun, and I learned a tremendous amount of what it takes to create a game and what it really means to be an environment artist. Although it was maybe silly content, it was a great experience, and I really loved it. After that, I went to commercials. I worked on high-res vehicles and did Ford, Lincoln, and Mercury for a little bit until I was picked up by another game company and worked on Thor for PlayStation and Xbox. I got to do a lot of really difficult and challenging animated doors for the game. So pretty much every level I did all of the animated doors. So they had moving pieces, and everything was separate and had animated glow that went through it as the character activated them. That was a really interesting and fun challenge that I really enjoyed. After I shipped my second game with that company, I was hired by Nickelodeon, and it was a tremendous opportunity. I was a texture artist there for several years. Got to do a lot of different characters, sets and props, and it was a really fun switch to go from gaming to animation. We did a lot of fun and interesting mutants and monsters. Sorry about the quality of some of these images. This is some personal work from an animation, a short, another personal project. And currently I am at DreamWorks. I work on what's called Hub. So I work on pretty much all of the shows, although I am lead on Dino Trucks. So I worked on various shows like This Is for Puss in Boots. I did this entire set. And this character. All of these gold piles were, that was actually a lot of fun to do. They're mostly just geo, and it's all displacement with a couple coins on top, but a lot of work went into these gold piles. And so now I'm on Dino Trucks, and it's a really fun show to be on. It's a great team, and the look that we're getting from season 2 is really just phenomenal. We're all really excited about it. The story of Dino Trucks is a lot of fun. It's a lot of collaboration and working together, and there's a lot of action and a lot of comedy. And the characters are actually a mashup of trucks and dinosaurs. So It's a lot of fun for kids. We do have a lot of technical issues with this show because of scale differences. We have really, really large characters like Ty here, and then really, really small ones like Revit. And so what happens is we'll have far shots that encompass all of the characters, and then we'll have really close shots with the smaller characters up on the ground. So we run into issues with texture scale and texture resolution. So we have to do a lot of troubleshooting to figure out how we can make things look good from far away and from super close up. So I've done quite a bit of shader development so that we can switch between resolutions and tiling and all kinds of different tricks to get a good look at every range. I got to do a lot of hand painting on this guy right here. This is a Scrapter. My skills as a muralist really came in handy for this guy. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed working on him. And this is a set that I worked on. We do a lot of rock. And this is the interior of the garage. We did some really cool shader treatments to create some different amber looks. And it's always a challenge to try and come up with a new and exciting, different looking rock because we have so many rock assets that it's always a challenge to try and somehow make it new. For upcoming season, we have done a lot of lava, which is mainly done in texture, which I really enjoyed doing. I write a lot of expressions to do animated textures and multiple layers of textures so that we can change the lava over time without having to rely on fluids and effects for everything. They come in and they do additional effects on top, and it has the underlying animated texture underneath. This is the exterior of the bad guy. His name is Destructs. So I did this entire set, which is another set that we had a lot of technical difficulties with, having scaling look really good so that from far away, because it's a really big set, from far away it couldn't look like it was tiling and repeating, but we needed to be able to render it. So there was a lot of technical shader work done to be able to make it work. The node network for this rock alone was over 100 nodes. It was like opening up a rat's nest when you looked at it. This is some more lava. I got to do a lot of lava on various episodes, which was a lot of fun. This was another really cool set that I did a lot of work on. This is called the acid baths. And again, we did more animated textures with the acid moving and undulating, and the final result is really cool looking when you see it in the close shots of it moving over time. And that's it.
Lauren, how did you find your first job?
Well, I spent several months here as a lab tech after I finished school, and when I didn't get hired right away, I just continued to work on my reel every minute that I could and asked for advice at every turn. And I attended the Gnomon preview days, which is just such an amazing thing that they offer here. And I met the art director of the company that I worked at called Vortex Games. And he gave me my first contract as an environment artist. But actually, when I was in school, my teacher at the time, my ZBrush teacher, Scott Spencer, gave me the opportunity to become an intern at Gentle Giant Studios, where I worked on the movie 2012.
And you've had such a range of experiences that you've talked about, that you mentioned commercials and, features and TV. What has each of these areas taught you, and what are you bringing going forward in your career?
They've taught me a lot. I've picked up different tools and techniques in each field because each one has its own way of getting things done. I've brought a lot of useful techniques from gaming into animation that we've integrated into our pipeline at DreamWorks, and it helps to try a lot of different things. One, to figure out what you really want to do, and two, to get more skills and become a more valuable asset to your future employer. It makes you a richer artist. You have more to offer.
Could you give us maybe one example? Like you mentioned, there was something from games that you brought to DreamWorks.
Well, there's different techniques that are used in games. We use, in gaming, there's a lot of, you use ZBrush a lot, usually. You do a lot of sculpting, and then, maybe the extracting of the maps, making tileable maps, and utilizing, getting more for less, basically, so that you can create your assets to be less intensive on the game engine. And that's really helpful in animation, because having things integrated into your scenes also means less render time. So those kinds of skills and techniques are really helpful in alleviating when you're having render problems.
Okay, well, why don't you join us? And our next speaker is Crystal Sayu, and she's modeling and texture lead at The Mill, where she's worked on a number of projects, including one you might have heard of called Avatar.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to start out by playing my demo reel. Cool. So that was just a little introduction of my my career so far. Right now, I'm modeling and texturing lead at the Mill Los Angeles, where I've been working there for about 3 years. A little bit about me. I started getting interested in film as a kid, you know, loving Disney movies and loving cinema, like watching Alien and Aliens way too young. And I really wanted to be a 2D animator when I was in middle school and high school. I would copy out of my Lion King coloring books and you know, color Simba blue for no reason. I decided to go to Brooks College in 2004, and I wanted to be a 2D animator, but unfortunately in 2004 was the very year that Disney laid off all their 2D animation people. So I realized that, oh, well, I think maybe 3D is what I need to be doing. Toy Story was released not too long ago back then, and that seemed to be the trend. I learned about Gnomon, and actually, first I went to work at a manga studio as a graphic design assistant, and I worked on a bit of a graphic design portfolio, and that helped me get into Gnomon in 2006. A contact that I had actually got me my first gig at a game studio called Meteor Games, where we worked on a little MMO called Twin Skies. From there, my instructor at Gnomon, Miguel Ortega, helped me out and got me my first feature film gig at Cafe FX, working on John Woo's Red Cliff. And from there, I went on to hydraulics for several years and racked up a bunch of credits there. And then after that, I went to Los Angeles. Here's a big list of my credits from the last eight years. As you can see, there's like huge amounts of different things that you can do with modeling and texturing. You know, MMOs, TV, theme park work, commercials, all the stuff applies. And as long as you have the skills, you can take that to any number of different disciplines. So let me show you guys some of my personal work. Here's something I did in Chavant. I eventually cast and molded it. Here's a ZBrush model that I did a few years ago. Here's a deer study, all in ZBrush. Here's a deer skull with a bit of carving designs. Here's a horse study that I did last year. It was really fun. I just like staring at horses for reference. And this is what I eventually turned him into, added some armor and painted a bit of textures. Here's a little pig from the dancing clip from a movie from China called Hollywood Adventures. This was the most fun to work on, by the way. Just recreating a pig from photo reference. And here is a human model. And here's a quote from my favorite lady, Tina Fey. And that's it.
So like Lauren, you've had a lot of different areas, features, theme parks. What did you find that each of those taught you and you're taking with you as you continue in your career?
The techniques are usually the same for all of them. I would say commercials are a bit more fast-paced, and you're expected a lot of quality in a very, very short amount of time. They all kind of deal with the same kinds of thing. What's the quickest way for you to get something that looks great? And through all of them, it's just really learning the basics and kind of going back and learning the like traditional artistic skills and really getting those down at the same time, because technical ability and artistic ability are neck and neck, and you should really have a great foundation in both.
And your demo reel that you showed, again, that wasn't just from the mill. That was all of the experiences you've had at your different employers. And we haven't really talked about theme parks yet. Tell us a little bit about what sort of work you did on the Wizarding World.
Okay, so I worked on the roller coaster, and I have yet to go, so I can't wait for it to open, I think, this year. But the one in Florida opened up, and it's 3D projected graphics on, kind of like the Star Wars ride at Disneyland, where your seat moves with the roller coaster moves with visuals. We did the whole Hogwarts castle, and you get to be in an enchanted chair and fly over the castle. I'm sure some of you guys have been.
And you mentioned that you also more recently have done some virtual reality work as well.
Yes, we worked on a big project called Google ATAP Help, and it was directed by Fast and Furious's Justin Lin. If you guys are interested, you can download the Google Spotlight Stories app and play the Help movie. It's really cool because you can just sit there and we made everything in the set. It is a seamless movie that you can look through your phone and see any angle of the narrative as you follow a story about an alien crashing to Earth.
Actually, that's a pretty cool
I know. I wish
channel
I could show
to check out on YouTube too. Aardman's done them. They've found a lot of different filmmakers to do a variety of projects. Okay, thank you. Brooke Shea is next. She's an animator at Duncan's Studio, and she's working on Nut Job 2 right now. So please welcome Brooke.
Hi, guys. So first, I just want to say thanks to Gnomon and Women in Animation for being a part of this. Thanks, Carolyn, for moderating. And special thanks to Evie and Lynette for inviting me to be here. It's exciting. So I'm a character animator, and that means that I have to create believable, appealing, and entertaining character performance using observation, acting, and animation principles. So quickly, I just want to go through what I do in a day. There is the director, of course, will sit down with the team and launch a sequence of shots from the movie. And we, this is going automatically. Okay, well, so we will sit down and kind of get on the same page of what the shots are supposed to be. And then the supervisor will go around and cast all those shots individually to the animators that they want to do those shots and talk about their ideas for the shots. And so once I'm cast on a shot or a sequence of shots, I will go back to my desk and I will start planning the shot, and that's a big part of the job. So first of all, I'll check the storyboards and the layout and see if I can get any ideas there. I'll study the audio. Often there's a lot of potential in the vocal performance from the actor, so I'll listen for breaths or a nice rhythm or anything that will inform the performance. Sometimes you can even hear an expression if someone's smiling as they're talking. I'll draw thumbnails sometimes on Post-its if I need a pose idea. Oops. And sometimes I'll shoot video reference. If it's an acting shot, I like to do that, and I take a long time. I like to do sometimes an hour, hour and a half just to shoot reference, but sometimes it takes that long just to get a really natural feeling performance, and I just like exploring that. So then I move into Maya. I use Maya to animate, at least on my job currently, and I do a blocking pass, and this is an example of a very rough pass. Oop. This is the first thing that I would show the director and the lead and the supervisor and get any feedback that I can on that. So I like to stay in blocking as long as I can. It's the most fun part of the process for me, so I'll break everything down and get it really nice and tight. I'll all the little details, all the fingers and toes and all of that, and get that feeling nice. And then I move into splining, which looks a lot like that. This is the graph editor in Maya, and this is actually a shot I just got approved today. But that's what it looks like in the graph editor. So this is 2 characters. It's a very long shot, and each one of those little lines represents an axis of motion on one of the controls of the character. So when you see it all at once, it's a little overwhelming, but usually we're looking at these just as one curve at a time, so it's not that bad. And so I will go in and I'll start refining the animation, breaking it down, putting in all the in-betweens, and making it feel alive as much as I can. So I want to talk about how I got into this. My path to animation was definitely not a direct one. I didn't really figure out that I could even be an animator or want to be an animator until I was in my late 20s. So I got kind of a late start, but looking back, I had so many clues that I was sort of destined for this work, but I didn't figure it out until too late, or until very late. So I actually did my first animation when I was 6 years old. And then I got obsessed with this computer game called Big Top's Cartoon Toolbox, starring Felix the Cat. And it was basically an animation program on the computer where you could put together your own Saturday morning cartoons, and starring Felix the Cat. And so you had these cast of characters along the side here that you could put in, and there were these pre-made animations that you could kind of string together and create your own cartoons. And it was kind of like my first Maya, because down here I had my timeline with my frame numbers, and I could play it back and, you know, make my little cartoons, and it was great. And I would spend hours doing this, and here's another view of Felix swimming. And then I was obsessed with Disney. I was a Disney junkie. I would watch these movies over and over again, sometimes in slow motion. My sister and I, who's an effects artist actually, would sit and watch these in slow motion. We'd be looking for like little strange in-betweens where the character might go a little off model, or there'd be a smear frame or something like that when the character's moving really fast. And we just loved that stuff. We thought it was a lot of fun. So. And, you know, we figured out how to do it on our little VCR, so we would just sit there and watch frame by frame. But it was fun. And then, you know, while other kids, you know, other teenagers were out listening to Nirvana and smoking pot probably, I was at home watching Nick at Night like a dork. So I loved these old black and white TV shows. This is Dick Van Dyke. And he was just amazing. He looks like an animated character, the way he moves, his posing, his comedic timing is all great. And so he was actually, I didn't know it at the time, but he's a huge influence on animators today. And another one of my favorites, Lucille Ball from I Love Lucy. I loved this show. Anyway, so then I went to college, and by that point I knew I wanted to get into art. I just didn't realize what it was I was going to do in art, so I got a BFA in media arts. I studied drawing, did a lot of figure drawing, and dance and choreography. And I had been dancing all throughout my childhood, but it wasn't until I got to college that I realized I liked choreography as well. And that actually is a huge link to what I do now and influences what I do now. So. Anyway, so I graduated college and didn't know what to do still, so I tried lots of things. I was a carny, a busser at a restaurant, a veterinary assistant. I did the night shift at Walmart. I was part of the family advertising business. I was a department store clerk, a florist, a fitness instructor. I worked at State Farm. I worked at Michael's. I worked at the public television station. I worked at the travel agency, and then a radio station. And that was it. I couldn't do it anymore. I had to focus. So I was really looking for something at that point in my life that I could master. I was tired of being sort of a jack of all trades, and I wanted to really find something that would kind of keep me going, you know, for life. And so finally it clicked. It was animation, and I just put all the clues together and realized that's where I was headed. So Everything up to this point was easy, for sure. This is when it got hard. But luckily, there's places like Gnomon. So I actually got some of my foundation in animation at Animation Mentor. And then I took classes at Gnomon as well. And this is Diane, actually. She's in the audience, one of our speakers tonight. And this is me. And this was on a short film that we worked on here with director Shane Acker, who did the animated film 9. And that was a great experience for me. And it actually led to my first gig with... I worked with Shane on a project. He was starting up a studio called Benthos, and I did previs and animation there. And then, thanks to a coworker, I got a job at POV doing previs and animation, so I was on a roll. And then unemployment, or fun employment is what we like to call it. And it's fun. It's scary, but it's fun because you get to do a lot of your own things during that time. So I tried to keep my skills going. I did a lot of, almost the entire animator survival kit in 3D. If anybody's an animator, they know what that is. It's just a book with a lot of animation exercises in it. So that was a lot of way that I filled my time. Sitting at home alone. And then I started a peer-to-peer critique group for animators in Los Angeles, and that was great. Practicing giving and receiving feedback is huge in our industry, so this has been a real boon to my work. And then finally, somebody gave me a chance. This guy, Ken Duncan at Duncan Studio, which is a boutique animation studio in Pasadena. They do 2D and 3D animation. And he gave me a chance, and I got to work on, this is some of his animation, actually. He was a supervising animator at Disney on Jane from Tarzan, which was one of my favorite female animated characters, actually, so it was very intimidating to work for him. But I got to work on the Nut Job at Duncan Studio. And I worked on a lot of commercial projects at PSYOP, which was really good for building my speed and making changes quickly. I worked on Rock Dog at Real Effects, and if you can't tell, we're actually playing air guitar there. It's a little... and then I went to Sony immediately after that and worked on Hotel Transylvania 2. And now I'm back at Duncan, and I'm working on the Nut Job 2, so I'm back home. It's nice. And this was Halloween. This isn't how we dress every day. This is me. I'm the unicorn, so... So quickly, what I've learned, always show up. Networking is huge. A lot of the women up here have already said that. I've gotten every job I've gotten in this industry because of somebody that I knew and someone that was willing to recommend me. So studio hopping, a lot of people are afraid that, of the hired and fired mentality in this industry, but I think it's really beneficial, especially when you're starting out, to hop around and you get to meet a lot of people, and that will only lead to job security later on, because you will, get familiar with everyone. People will start to know who you are and recognize your work. Small studios equal big opportunities. Again, a lot of people try to shoot for those big studios like Pixar. And there are a lot of small studios, especially in LA, that can really give you some great opportunities to get started. I'm doing some of my best work at Duncan right now, so it's a good place to be. Embrace backsliding. A lot of people early on start to feel like their work is just not very good, like what they're looking at isn't very good. And that's really a good place to be because that means your eye is developing. And you're about to do your best work because you're seeing it in a new way. So just push through that. I know it's difficult. And then the best thing about this industry is really the people. I have found my people here in animation. And it's touching. It's nice. Because I struggled for a while. So. And then I just want to show my demo reel as it stands. I can't put everything on here yet, but you'll get an idea of some of the stuff I've been doing over the last few years. So.
Oh, this'll be fun. As long as you're happy.
Thanks, Dad.
Brooke, now that you're working in the industry, what are some of the things you do to continue to inspire yourself? What do you like to read? What do you like to watch?
To inspire myself? Well, I try to go see as many animated films as I can. I just saw Zootopia, which was amazing. Yeah, I mean, I like going to other industry events, seeing what people are up to. Just getting out and talking to people is always really nice because we spend so much time in front of a computer. So it helps to just get out and meet with people. I try to get together with other animators as much as I can, and then, and yeah, just watch shows, watch how people move. I mean, even just riding the bus in LA can be really inspiring for me. So, yeah, just looking at the world and seeing what people are doing out there.
And my next question was, how do you keep up your network? Is it by going to these events primarily, or?
Yeah, I mean, as I have been able to get more and more work, you meet people on the job, and then hopefully that leads to another job through connections you have there. But yeah, going to like CTN is a really big one for animation, and it's so many people there from all over the world. And then having peer-to-peer critiques, which is something that I do regularly, that helps as well. So yeah, being at Gnomon, taking classes at Gnomon, yeah, stuff like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, come join us. And since you mentioned that you saw Zootopia, that's a good segue to our next guest. Diana J. Zhang is next, and she's a lighting and compositing artist at Walt Disney Animation Studios, and she just completed work on Zootopia.
Hi, everyone. Hi, I'm Diana. I just want to say I feel really lucky to be up here with all you really talented and amazing ladies, and so thank you so much for having me. I'm just going to pull up the slide. So yes, hi. I currently work at Walt Disney Animation Studios. I am a lighting compositing artist. Currently, I am on Moana. I actually just started on Monday, so haven't really done that much yet. Recently, I'm just going to go to this next slide. They helped me put together this presentation, so they put my picture up there. So since I've been at the studio, and unfortunately I think the compression on the PowerPoint's not great, so I apologize. My first film at Disney was Wreck-It Ralph, and since then I've worked on Frozen. Big Hero 6 I worked a little bit on as a look development artist, so I did a little bit of texturing. And then most recently, I just finished up my role as a lighting supervisor on Zootopia. So I'm just going to back up so we'd have to stare at that picture. So just a little bit about myself. I was born in China. I grew up there, moved here when I was 8 years old to live with my mom in Boston. From a very early age, I was always surrounded by art and music. My father's a classical violinist and a teacher. We actually lived on the campus of the university that he taught at, so I was always kind of just surrounded by creative people, and I think that definitely influenced me when in high school, you had to make the choice on what to do with your life, what colleges to apply, and for me, always loving drawing, to music, to singing, theater, I really felt like I needed to do something creative with my life. However, I didn't really know what. I knew that I really loved movies. I think Sound of Music was the first movie that I saw in China in color, and it just kind of blew me away. So I didn't know how to get into the movie industry. The high school that I went to was very academic. Mostly doctors and lawyers come out of that high school. So I did know a little bit about theater, so I decided to apply to different colleges around the country. CalArts really stood out as one with their theater scenic design program. It had a great combination of creativity that drew on drawing skills and design skills, and I thought that that was a great place to start. So in 2001, I went there for my bachelor's. While I was in school, I met a production designer who gave me my first job here in LA. I went into working in art department in live action, actually from about 2004 to 2000, I'd say 8 or 9. I did, so we'll just kind of fast forward on that. So I did a lot of my own production design work. So this was the job that I had art directed. So a lot of set dressing, a lot of props. I was also a scenic painter. It was a lot of fun. This was actually probably my second job. This is the stage that we had built for the first Killers video here, Mr. Brightside, that aired here in the States. I think I spent 3 days on the floor making the 2 backdrops. They were made out of broken Christmas tree ornaments. So it was a lot of fun working on different commercials, music videos. This is something I did at CalArts. We made these life-size marionettes out of basswood. So I've done like a lot of things. I love working with my hands and working with crews. This is we did a few Gwen Stefani videos. We built as a commercial. I think this is a Tyco commercial where we built this house on the back lot of Universal and then proceeded to burn it down because they were selling technology where they could detect body heat, I guess, inside of a flaming house, which is great. And I also worked on some Muppet promos. So my range of experience has been commercials, music videos, web series. I did a couple of films, TV, reality shows. It was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of hard work. This was something that I had production designed and built. It was like that's not a real rooster, by the way. So we adhere to all animal rights, safety. So, and I'll just back it up there. So it was a lot of fun. It was also kind of stressful. I was a freelancer here in LA. My goal at the time was to pursue a career not only in working in art department, but also to get my own career as a production designer or art director off the ground, but on the live action side. So I did a lot of student films. Unfortunately, none of those opportunities really led me to anything that kind of panned out to something that was bigger. I guess I was never at the right place at the right time. Just to give you an idea, like the length of my jobs, these freelance jobs, a commercial can last a day or half a day to, I think my longest job was on a TV series that was 10 months. Aside from that, everything ranged from like about a month to a day or 2 weeks was the best. So for me, going into my late 20s, I really had to think hard about what my future held and whether or not it was a sustainable schedule. I think the longest shoot I was on was like a 21-hour shoot. That was a little bit stressful. So in thinking about what I wanted to do outside of work, I decided that perhaps it was time for a change. Even working on just the few years that I did in live action, it was apparent that more and more of the sets that we were building were getting smaller and smaller. Our budgets were getting smaller and smaller as productions were leaning more towards shooting things on green screen or blue screen and doing things on the VFX side, CG side. So that really got me thinking about what I should be doing with my future. So in 2009, when I was in a stint of unemployment for about, I don't know, like 5 months or so, which is not great. In between trying to call and get the next job, I saw some videos actually done by the Gnomon workshop and found out about the school and decided that maybe it was time for change. And going back to school and just seeing all the great art that was on the website really inspired me. And for me, it was like all or nothing. I felt like I just had to make the change and dive in. So I applied, and luckily I got in. I don't have too much to show, just this one piece, but I'm super proud of this piece because it was one of the first pieces I ever did here at Gnomon. From concept to modeling, texturing, I did everything. I created this piece mainly for my dad because I wanted to, give him something to say, hey, Dad, look, I made this for you. I'm still proud of it to this day because it's really hard. I attended the full-time program, like I'm sure all of you guys did. It was probably the hardest, it was very long, 21 months, but I got so much out of it. I was able to put together a great demo reel. It was also there that when I first went to Gnomon, because of my art direction, production design, and art department background, I honestly thought that maybe modeling and texturing would be, and environments would be where I would go. But then during school, I discovered actually that lighting and compositing, in creating this image actually, I spent so much time modeling and texturing that when it came to lighting, it at first didn't register with me like how important it was to the final image. That it was something that was a surprise, and I'm really glad that I focused in on it. My reel is a more generalist reel, but with a focus toward lighting and compositing. So after Gnomon, actually I was lucky enough to get my first job through an instructor who is still teaching here, actually, Eric Keller. He hired me to help out on a commercial that he was working on at the time at Imaginary Forces. So I did that for a month, which was amazing. I was like, wow, if I can just keep landing these month-long jobs, I'd be set. I'm good. They're not a day. Exactly hit my target. So then I did some other odd jobs, including roto gigs. Meanwhile, at the time, I had learned about the apprenticeship program that Pixar Canada at the time was offering. One of my classmates had actually, who was in a term prior to mine, had gotten, actually maybe 2 terms, and got in and had a really great experience there. So I thought perhaps I could try the same. Interviewed with them for a few times, but unfortunately they weren't hiring at the time. I even went up to Vancouver to SIGGRAPH with the intention of introducing myself and saying, hey, now that you've seen me, would you like to hire me? But they didn't. But out of that, though, I did learn at that conference that Disney actually also offered a apprenticeship program that was very similar that I had no idea about. I actually wasn't even going to go to the open interview process that they had there, but I did. And luckily, I guess, there weren't many other lighting compositing artists with their reels there, because I got to sit down with a lighting supervisor and got my reel reviewed, and it kind of just took off from then. So I was very lucky. So that's how I started Disney. I entered as a trainee. So I worked on Wreck-It Ralph as an apprentice and then an assistant, and kind of just worked my way up there. Luckily, after Frozen, I interviewed for the lighting supervisor position on Zootopia, and was fortunate enough to be given the opportunity, and yeah, that's kind of where I am right now. So I have some images that they've allowed me to kind of bring here to show you guys. I don't know if you guys have all seen the movie. But unfortunately, we can't live stream this, so if we're all good. Okay, so these are just some images. I don't know if it actually plays. Okay, no. I don't know how this works. Well, okay, so I had hoped that perhaps that we could show the clip, but anyway, it's just showing some images of some sequences that I was the supervisor on. So sorry if this is kind of a spoiler for those of you who haven't seen the movie. But please go see it. So this is part of the movie where it's called Nick's Philosophy. We name each of our sequences just so there's something to call them besides just numbers. But this is where Nick kind of explains to Hop, Judy Hopps, the other main character, how it is really like in Zootopia. So just to talk a little bit about my job as a lighting supervisor, we are sequence supervisors, so we are responsible for different chunks or scenes in the movie. We get on the show much earlier than the crew and start working with the director of cinematography layout and director of cinematography lighting, who's my boss, along with the art director and the director to kind of figure out what is the overall mood and lighting, and really thinking of the final look for each of these sequences in the movie. So this is a scene from, just to back up, the lobby from the Naturalist Club. So they go to this kind of like animal nudist club. So this is the interior lobby. So I should say that these are final stills from the movie, which I am not directly responsible for. I am actually representing many artists who did do the finishing touches. What I do try and help with, and I did help with, was to kind of establish, for instance, in this, what are the initial color palettes, and where is the sense of lighting coming from? So those initial sort of the broader strokes. And this is one of my favorite sequences. It's the wedding reception, where we kind of take inspiration from The Godfather. So if you've seen The Godfather, this is at night, but they have in the actual movie, this is kind of based on the portrait scene, and we actually deliberately tried to arrange these little shrews in their order. And then this is one of my other really favorite sequences, the Natural History Museum, towards the end. I'm just going to say that without spoiling too much. But yeah, please go see the movie. It was great. So.
And could you talk a little bit about the collaborative process and working with the directors, the other departments? You mentioned the director of photography.
Oh, sure. I'll just speak to that based off of Zootopia, the last project that I was on. So it's a very, I'd say, personable process where we're on a day-to-day basis and constantly in and out of review with each other. I'd say, like Zootopia, even though I didn't actually put my own work, finishing touches on a shot as a lighting artist, it was probably, for me, the most creatively rewarding project I've ever worked on, just because I felt like, though Dave and Dan, the art directors, they came in with a very, very strong vision, and so did the director, Byron Howard, came in with a very strong idea for what they wanted the movie to look like. They were also very, very open to suggestions. For a lot of these sequences, we did a lot of research. So for that hippo shot, I researched a lot of hip-hop music videos because the intention was that she was so shocked in that moment that what she saw next was kind of like a little bit out of reality, a step to the side. So we actually reference some of the visual cues that a lot of hip-hop videos might use, like vignetting or highly saturated colors and crushed blacks, to kind of push that a little bit and then kind of make it more our own. So little things like that. Yeah, it's great. So if we have an idea, we would, you know, pitch it to either the art director and the directors, and then from there it's just kind of like an open conversation where it's more like a back and forth process of, okay, where we want the final image to land.
And I know for these films they do the research trips. They went to Africa.
Yes. Yes. Which unfortunately I didn't get to go to, but that was yes. The directors, the director of cinematography, layout and lighting, and the producers, and some of the top leadership were able to go. They went to a safari trip to do research, which was amazing. From that, we got a lot of great references for a lot of actually animation references for how animals actually behaved, and like cloud references, and just seeing the animals in their habitats. We got to go to the safari in San Diego, though, so that was really super cool. I got to feed a giraffe, and that was kind of crazy. But yeah.
Why don't you come over and join the group, and let's actually start by talking about influences a little bit. What do all of you do to to just keep fresh and to be inspired? Do you like to read? Do you go to a lot of movies, photography, dance?
All of the above. I kind of talked about that already, but yeah, watching movies, watching any performance, really, dance, theater, yeah.
Yeah, getting back to my roots, painting, it's always fun. Working on personal projects, because a lot of times working in production, you're working on, not necessarily what you want to work on, but part of the larger production. So working on something that you're driven to work on helps keep you motivated and try new skills that maybe you don't use at the job.
I try to do a lot of traditional sculpture work and just keep my chops up that way. And I watch a lot of more traditional artists because I think, like, at least for my discipline, it's so important to take from the masters and dip into the traditional work a bit more.
Yeah, pretty much the same for me. I love all of those things, and watching other people's works, especially friends of mine. It's really cool to see how they evolve into better artists, and that kind of makes me feel like I should keep doing the same. So
I play a lot of little mini games. I don't play as many AAA games as I should as a AAA game developer. I'm highly addicted to Candy Crush. But I spend a lot of time doing crafts, and I have many, many, many cabinets full of projects that have been started and not finished. From perler beads that we all played with when we were like 6 to working in metals. I do a lot of stuff with precious metals now, doing silver and kind of working on jewelry.
And since you mentioned the use of green screen becoming more prevalent, but I mean, the technology is changing the industry. Some of you have already started to work on virtual reality projects. What do you do to stay on top of these changes?
I can start. I talk to my friends in the industry. Admittedly, like being at Disney, it's great to have gone to Gnomon, because then I'm still in touch with a lot of the friends that I've made here, and they're really the ones that, when we get together, inevitably we start talking about what is it that we do or what we work on, and it's just so refreshing to hear about where everyone's at and where things are going. I actually just had my birthday on Saturday, and it was at my friend Joel's house, and he was in that picture that you showed. Yeah, and he actually had a VR system set up in his living room, borrowed from a friend of his, so that was pretty cool. That was my first VR experience, and it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I did a couple of VR projects for PSYOP, and it was just sort of learn on the job. I mean, you know, it's like the technology is always changing, and so every project you're put on is just an adjustment to that new technology. So you just sort of learn as you go, I think.
Peer-to-peer. A lot of networking, and the office will send around emails, and even Facebook nowadays, I'll just, you know, bookmark a new link that somebody, you know, sent out, and I'll save it and then read it later, and then try out that package at home, and just make sure that I'm, you know, on top of things.
Going to events and seeing behind the scenes and what different studios are doing to create their final image, and, you know, learning about different plugins and scripts or whatever to, just keep researching and find new ways of doing things, because there's almost an insurmountable amount of new stuff to learn about, which is awesome. There's always something to learn, but yeah, it's looking online, looking at other people's work that you like, finding out what they use, what render, and, you know, it could be a lot of different things, but always just looking and going to events, like I said, helps a lot.
I also wanted to talk a little bit about communication, which we spoke about a bit earlier. You know, in your job, you're also not just communicating with your team, but sometimes in other countries. Talk a little bit about developing that skill set for your job.
Right. Well, I work with overseas, so, you know, a lot of the assets that I review have to go back to either India or Canada or someplace else, and so it's very important to learn how to communicate clearly and completely express what it is that you need from a certain asset, because you might be surprised at the results you get back. But yeah, clarity is very important, as supplying reference images as well, and being specific as to what you're pulling from that reference image and why you want them to include it in the asset. But yes, sometimes having a lost in translation, you can get surprising results. So I've learned that you have to really be sometimes overly verbose and say maybe more than you would, but just to really drive the point home of what you need can net you a much better looking asset in the end.
I'd love each of you to maybe tell us about one of your mentors and what you learned from him or her. Who wants to go first?
Mentors.
Oh, mentors.
I mean, it's hard to kind of narrow it down because there's so many, and it sounds really vague. But I mean, I even had a mentor through the Visual Effects Society mentorship program, and she was extremely helpful. I have a lot of mentors even within my industry and within Naughty Dog. We have some really great graphics programmers that help inspire me learn more tech and learn how to do water and learn how to script. And they know all the tech, but because they're graphics programmers, they can understand the art speak of it. And I had one graphics programmer at Naughty Dog who really helped kind of build me a small scripting curriculum with classes to take at Santa Monica College and online resources, and really helped create little projects for me to do to kind of learn on my way in a way that you would when you're in school, and that was really valuable.
The people I learned the most with, of course, the Gnomon teachers that I still keep contact with. And of course, all my leads, they were great, especially at the poster company that I worked for. They were actually photographers, they did traditional art more than 3D, and I felt that helped me a lot because I could learn how to see how they see to transform that into 3D. And, I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah.
I've had quite a few mentors over the years. I had one main mentor when I was here at Gnomon, and he really helped me prepare for more the realities of what it's like working in production, because there's a lot of iteration, and sometimes there's changes to your work, not based on look, but because of some other need. Maybe the needs of the shot have changed, or the needs of the game, or whatever it may be, but you have to prepare for iteration, and to always be willing to go back and work on it again and change things, and to not get overly attached to certain things, because ultimately, as a production artist, you are working for that production. It's not really your piece, and you have to be prepared to change it if need be.
I had two very significant mentors in my career, and they're both named Miguel. Miguel Ortega, he's still an instructor at Gnomon, but he does tons and tons of great work. From the beginning, he'd inspired me to be a ZBrush artist. And then I met Miguel Guerrero at Hydraulics and worked with him for 5 years. And, we both were into monsters and sculpting and, creature design films and stuff like that. So he really helped, guide me, to a more, like a very fulfilling artistic career, while also, using those same skills to apply to our jobs as modelers. And they both continue to inspire me.
Yeah, I've had many mentors as well. Shane Acker, Joe Cassander, I worked with them at Bentos, and that was sort of my first job. So they sort of taught me the ropes and showed me how to, do what I needed to do on the job. But as a student, I had one specifically that stands out. Her name was Nicole Herr, and she was an instructor at Animation Mentor, and I remember I was working on an assignment, and I didn't know much about Maya, early on. I had just started over and gotten into this stuff. So, I had a character who just needed to step off a curb, and I was really resisting that because it just seemed like a lot of work at the time. It sounds silly now, but at the time that I was a student and I was trying to get a character to step off the curb, it just seemed like one extra thing I had to focus on and do, and it seemed like a hard task to take on. So I kind of, every week she would say, okay, I need you to do this. I need you to have the character step off the curb. And I wouldn't do it. I would just kind of like move him a little closer to the curb. And again, the next week she'd be like, Brooke, really, you got to just step off the curb. And then finally she was like, Brooke, all right, I'm not going to tell you again. And she treated me like a director would treat me, like, you have to hit this note. This is what I'm telling you to do. And so I finally got it. At that moment, I realized, okay, yes, hit the notes that you're given by your director. Make sure you understand them clearly and go almost beyond what they're asking for sometimes. So that was a big lesson for me starting out.
I, too, had many mentors, which I think is more often than not the case. But just starting out in live action, I'd say my very first mentor was Laura Fox, the production designer who I worked for many years. And she taught me a lot about what it is to work on a production team on a set. I think, and a lot of those skills have carried over to work on the CG side. One of the most important of which I think is just kind of seeing and trying to anticipate what the director or the producer or the art directors might want, and then just getting on that as quickly as possible. And then at Gnomon, I would say my peers were, a lot of my peers were my mentors, because oftentimes you'd be so close to a project that having that second, third eye look at, my work was really invaluable, and I got a lot of great notes from people around me. that really helped me on my reel. And while I was in school, I also met Billy Brooks. He was the lighter at DreamWorks, actually, and now he's doing his own like VFX stuff. But he gave me some really great tips just through a few conversations on what I needed to do to get a reel together that was more lighting-centric. And I think that that's really paid off in the success of my student reel. And then at Disney, Chris Springfield, he's a lighting supervisor on like Tangled, Wreck-It Ralph, Big Hero 6, and now Moana. He was the supervisor that I interviewed with at SIGGRAPH, and I feel like when I was at Disney, he really gave me a lot of the opportunities that helped enable me to show what I could do, that I think ultimately propelled me forward. So and that and more, there's probably a lot more people that I'm forgetting, but I'd say everyone that I've met has just been so helpful.
So to get to the theme of today, International Women's Day, what is it like to be a woman working in the business today? What are your experiences?
I'll go ahead and start. There's, always a lot of ups and downs, and it's hard to really know because I don't get to moonlight as a man in the industry, so it's kind of hard to compare. Sometimes people will say, hey, that person always responds to your email because you're a cute girl. And you're like, hey, you're my friend. You shouldn't say that kind of stuff. That's not nice. They just like me because I'm nice and I smell good. But I found that it's difficult because there are some women who are in the industry already, and it's hard to find them, and they're all extremely busy, just like we're all extremely busy, just like all the men are extremely busy, but they're going to help you. And that's been really exciting to have women help me and be able to reach out and help other women and just say, hey, I know what you're going through. Let me help you with that. And let me teach you something that no one else is going to teach you. Let me share that with you.
Yeah, I've had a great experience. I went through obviously a lot of different jobs, but I really feel most comfortable working in this industry, and all the people I've met have been so amazing and so talented. and as far as being a woman, it's not something I really focus on. I feel like when I was first learning about this work, I discovered a lot of people who had the same interests that I did, and so that's what encouraged me to keep going, was that, this person over here and this person over here and this person over here likes what I like, so that's an indicator that maybe I should move towards this. And when it comes to getting work and doing the work, I think our similarities are stronger than our differences. So it's just a team of people that you're working with, and it's been great so far for me. So
when I started in the industry, primarily in games, it was mostly a boys' club, and at first that was rather intimidating for me. But yeah, like Brooke, finding out, we have a lot of the same interests, and we're into the same thing because of our interests, and regardless of gender. And just once I got over my insecurities about sometimes being the only girl, everything was fine. There were great opportunities, and my experience in the industry has been really phenomenal as a woman. I don't think it's difficult or anything. Everyone is always very accepting, and as long as you show up, work hard, take your notes and turn them around to a completed asset of what they're looking for. There's, it's really not about gender.
At Disney, I'd say I'm very lucky to work with a lot of really strong and talented women. I'm not sure what the actual numbers are, but we have a lot of, great women in the lighting department, which is really awesome. just generally, like, everyone at the company are super nice and friendly and open and collaborative. It is much different, like, for me, like, having come from live action, because on that side, I was oftentimes the only woman on an art department crew, aside from, say, like, the set decorator or the production designer, building sets and stuff that was pretty male-dominated, and I did feel that, but it was great once they, the crew accepted me as one of the guys. But I'd say in animation, it's been great.
Yeah, for me, I have often been like you were saying, in production design, but in the modeling pit at various companies, I've been the only girl, and it hasn't been too much of a challenge in that, a lot of talented people and men are there to help, and they just want you to be a success, because then they'll be a success. And it's been very, very a positive back and forth between everybody.
Honestly, I can't really compare much because I've only worked in 2 places, and I haven't really been out of the industry. I was lucky enough that I didn't have to do it. But at least at Nickelodeon, for example, I find it great. Like on Fridays, we always have this girl lunch, and we get to hang out with each other. Actually, in the texture department, at least, most of the artists are actually women, which I found really impressive. That doesn't mean that the studio is mostly women either, but, I feel like women have a little bit of an advantage in certain ways because they see things differently most times, and that's really good, especially if you're working on a female character. That's really good. You know how they because I mean, you're a woman too,
The nuance.
Exactly, yes.
Could you give us an example, maybe? Something?
In texture, for example, if you're texturing a woman, you know how, like, many times you know how women actually put makeup on, or if you're modeling a woman, I always felt like because I know my body, I was able to, when I was modeling, I knew how everything should actually be, instead of, those soccer ball boobs and stuff like that, which you see a lot nowadays, but we make it feel more realistic, I believe.
I see some nodding. Anything you'd like to add?
I've had experiences where, men will do very beautiful works of, like a female figure, but I'm looking at it like there's no way that thigh gap is real. And and people, I mean, it's a beautiful piece, but I'm like thinking, what would a real body have? And anatomically, I think we're a bit more familiar with that part.
A few weeks ago at the Academy Awards, we saw Sarah Bennett become only the second woman to win an Academy Award in visual effects for Ex Machina. Did you watch that, and did that inspire you?
Yes, that was fantastic.
Okay, yeah. Okay, we'll move on. So, what advice, we were going to get to the advice part of the session. Lauren, I know you had some thoughts before we started. Maybe you'd like to begin?
Sure. Well, I just wanted to say that while you're in school, to keep in mind that your classmates can become your coworkers in the future, and your teachers could become your boss. There's always opportunities that can spring from those relationships, and that work relationships actually start in school. So to keep that in mind while you're a student, that everyone around you is observing you, either directly or indirectly, and to maintain a level of professionalism and dedication to your work, because that can definitely benefit you in the future. I know that that's been true for my own career, that I've worked with people that I went to school with and had opportunities because of teachers. So.
Yeah, can I say something to that point? I think one of the things that benefited me trying to get into this industry was that I had no plan B. Like, I just jumped off the cliff and said, this is what I'm going to do with my life. And I had the benefit of having a lot of other experiences before getting into this, so I sort of knew a lot of things I didn't want to do. But when I did commit to this, I fully committed. I sold everything I had. I quit my job and I moved out to LA, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. And it got really hard here and there. And I did start to question what I was doing and if this was something that I could actually achieve, being an animator. And but I had no plan B, so I had to keep going. And through my friends and my network, that kind of kept me going and pushed me through the hard times. And you will succeed if you keep trying and you keep doing the work. And showing up to the events and meeting people who do this work and learning from them and being inspired to do your own stuff. It'll happen. It just takes a little time sometimes. So,
I'll just follow up with that. Absolutely showing up is a big deal. There's actually been like a few stories that I've heard that of recruiters saying, well, the person never showed up or showed up late. So that, for one, showing up on time, being courteous to everyone around you, it pays off to be a nice person. I think not just on a deep core side, but just overall, and also absolutely be persistent. It is a hard industry. I think when I was at Gnomon, I slept thinking about the work that I was going to do and just got up every day and just 7 days a week. It is really hard. If you want to be good at this craft, you need to put in the time. And for me, that actually is something that I was really drawn to, because there's no way around it. You can't, talk your way into a job. Actually, it happened to me that I've seen in the live action side where, a producer's cousin wanted to be an art director and they talked their way into that job so they can select the couch. But I think in CG, what's great about it is that if you're talented and you're persistent and you work hard, network, it will pay off.
What experience comes to mind when you hear this statement? I am never, ever doing that again.
What it relates to, but I'd say keep an open mind in terms of you don't know exactly where your next job might be or what it will be, so maybe you try something for the first time, and if you figure out that you really didn't like it, at least you tried it. But keep an open mind for future trial and error, because by jumping around and doing different things, you're able to narrow down what you actually want to do and build your experience that way as well.
Okay, so even though I was really proud of this project that I did at Gnomon, actually for Darren's class here, it was modeling a concept vehicle out of NURBS. I would never want to do that again. Even though I finished it and I was very, very proud of it. That was hard.
Can I second NURBS and drop the mic?
I took a freelance gig in between a couple studios, and I remember thinking, I was just I had a full-time job for such a long time, and I was in between. So I was like, okay, I'm going to jump at the first thing that, comes at me. So I just spent all night, all day working on this spaceship. And it turned out really nice, but I basically killed myself to do this. And then the next day I got a call. So.
At the other end of the spectrum, best day. What was the, highlight experiences that come to your mind?
Delivery day. It's pretty great.
I think for me, like the first 4 months at Naughty Dog, every day was like the best day ever. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to learn water. This is the best day ever. Oh my God, I get to sculpt Drake's Snow Prince. Best day ever. Oh my God, people all over the world are going to see my art. Best day ever.
Seeing your name on credits is especially great. So, yeah.
Seeing your work on screen the first time is really exciting. But I think probably the best day for me was when I finally got my first actual job after waiting for a while. The stress of not having a job and, having to just continually work on your stuff and wait it out and wait for that right opportunity is really hard. So when that finally happened, that was one of the best days.
For me, it was hearing the director say that I had done beautiful animation and just getting that recognition and knowing that I had met the needs of the people that I was working for. So that was a nice moment.
We are going to open this up to questions from the audience, and I'm going to hand off the mic.
All right. I know some people out here's got some questions. Let's start right here.
Do you ever have like artist block, and when you do, how do you handle it?
Yeah, absolutely. For myself, it's usually changing what I'm doing. Like I have to do something different for a little while. Get outside, read a book, watch something that inspires me. There's always like all these, things that we have. Like for me, there's animation from my childhood that will take me out of myself for a little bit and remind me of what I love to do and help kind of reverse the artist block there.
Awesome. We've got a question right back here.
Hearing about like how difficult it was for you and like all the challenges that you had to go through to get where you are now, I guess it's kind of piggybacking on that question the person asked earlier about like how do you feel like inspired to continue or maintaining, I guess, the level of success that you have achieved right now? Is there something that you do that kind of makes you feel excited to kind of go out there and do it again? Or is there ever a point where you feel like, I can't do it anymore, or I need a break, or I need a vacation? What's the thing that makes you feel excited?
Yeah, I mean, I have those days all the time where I feel like I need a break. But I don't know, this work just keeps me going. The people I work with keep me going. And knowing that I'm working on something that everyone's going to see, I don't know, I just get excited about that and trying to put together the best performance I can, make something that hopefully people will be inspired by as well. I do worry that I may not always be able to maintain the work in feature film. It's a hard thing to continue in, but I have found that although I struggled in the beginning to start to find work, as I got going, it kind of sped up. And so now there seems to be always a job around the corner for me. So and hopefully it continues that way. It definitely gets a lot easier as you go to maintain work and to keep finding new jobs and new experiences that will inspire you. And for me, I like to jump around a little bit. I like meeting new people and moving on to new projects. I mean, that's the great thing about working in entertainment is there's always a new project with new characters, a new story. So it just kind of keeps everything interesting throughout. I never really get bored of what I'm doing, because there's always something new to do, a new shot, stuff like that.
Thanks so much, Brooke. Does anybody else want to answer that question? Yeah, go ahead.
We have some pretty grueling crunches at Naughty Dog, so it's pretty easy to be like, God, do I really want to do this anymore? But we also have a really great setup where we get to see people doing the focus tests. Like currently right now, the game is in really great shape, and we get to see people maybe playing my level, and you get to see the video of their face while they're playing it, and when you see how excited they are when they get to pass something or they see something unexpected, you're like, oh yeah, this is why we do this. Okay, I need to go back in, I need to kick some ass, and I need to make the rest of my level give people the same experience that that person is experiencing right now.
Amazing, amazing.
Actually, I wanted to add something also. I'm sure most of you know working in Maya can be very frustrating sometimes, where something that should work just suddenly doesn't, something breaks. And I work on Dino Trucks, which is a very technically difficult show and has a lot of things that go wrong, and some days it can be very frustrating. But then there's the other side where suddenly we get a shot back and the comp supervisor calls me over to his desk and tells me, this is the best shot we have. Look at this shot. Who did this asset? This is amazing. And having that kind of feedback is what brings it back to say, okay, this is great. We're doing good stuff here. So it's good to keep going.
Awesome, great question. Yeah, we got one more comment up here.
For me, just seeing all the reaction, the great reaction from Zootopia that's been coming out around the world. I've had strangers email me to say how much they love the film, which is just kind of amazing. What also inspires me is that I'm one of the mentors in the new trainee class at the studio, so being able to help in the training of new people coming into the studio has been really inspiring for me, because you see that fire, and it's just really awesome.
Excellent. All right, we've got a question right here from the audience.
Hi. So you saw the numbers from Women in Action that as you move up the leadership chain, there's less and less women. So if you think about some of the strong supervisors you work for, what's the best soft skill that they have that you find is going to promote that promotion in your career track? Besides being technically sound and great, but what is their leadership style that you find really helpful in your own career development?
I actually have a really great art director that really embodies kind of everything you want in leadership. Even when something you're doing is completely terrible, Rob will come over to you and he's like, I really admire what you're trying to do here. He embodies what I call the compliment sandwich. I did not coin this. I've learned this many, many millennia ago. But he starts off with hey, I see what you're doing here, or hey, the colors you're using here are really great. And then he, slips in this is where you can improve, and this needs to be more in line with this, or look at my color script, or look at this reference. And then he follows up with some more hey, keep doing this. I know you can do this. You're so talented. You're really great at what you do. You're going to do this. I have no worries that I have all the faith in the world that you're going to make this awesome. And you feel there's a sense of hope. I'm not a complete total failure. And then you go back to your desk and you think about all the things he said, and he sends you reference, and then you look at the reference and you're like, okay, I totally get it. And it keeps building you up. And I feel like everything that we do here, this whole industry, everything is always hard, and you need that leadership that's going to continue to elevate you while still guiding you and showing you the things where you can improve.
Yeah, I agree. I think that knowing how to deal with people in a gentle but very effective and inspiring way is very important. Knowing how to talk to them without hurting them, pointing the finger and saying, oh, this is wrong, or you're doing a terrible job, and stuff like that. Just knowing how to talk to people nicely.
Excellent. Awesome. We've got a question right back here.
My question was regarding the same type of thing. Do you feel like the next step for you is to stay at the level that you're at and just do better work? Well, not just do better work, but do better work. Or do you anticipate moving up the ladder to a director position? And if so, how do you see yourself going about that?
I can answer that. I would definitely like to move into more leadership roles. And one thing that I've noticed on jobs in the past is that, like I had one experience once where I was working on a job and my coworker, fellow animator, good friends, great relationship, would get up and walk across the room and go ask his one of our other male coworker animators for feedback. And I was sitting 4 feet away. I was right next to him. But he would continually get up and go, "Hey man, can you come look at my shot? Come on over here, come give me some notes." And I started to notice it happening, and it started to bother me, and I realized that it had serious implications, because I don't know why it was he was getting up to go over there and ask him for feedback rather than me. I mean, it would have been convenient for him to just lean over and say, "Hey, Brooke, can you take a look at this real quick and give me some feedback?" And, I mean, maybe he thought that my work sucked. That could be a possibility, but I don't think that was the case. I'm pretty sure that wasn't the case. But he wasn't asking me for feedback, and I realized that this may happen to a lot of women out there, and that getting, at least in animation, it's important to get feedback, but I think for any artistic position, it's beneficial. And so he wasn't asking for feedback, and because of that, I wasn't, practicing giving feedback, which is important. And then not practicing giving feedback may mean I'm not recognized as giving good feedback or giving good notes. And then not giving good notes or being recognized for that may mean I'm not promoted to a lead animator. And then not being promoted to a lead animator may mean I don't get to be a supervisor someday. And then I don't get to be a director someday, because I haven't had that happen to me early on. And I don't know if it's, I'm not sure why it happens, but I do notice men that I've worked with are more comfortable asking other men for feedback and for notes, and that's totally fine. But what I try to do is throw it out to everybody and just say, "Hey, if anybody has any notes on this, please let me know." And so I also just try to include everybody in the notes, and then hopefully that will lead to, to them seeing me as someone who can lead and be promoted to those positions and do a good job. So see how that goes.
Awesome. We've got a question right here.
Hi, my name is Faye, and I'm with a feminist group. The question's directed to Ms. Zhang. I know that Disney has a diversity plan or something like that. Do you think that all studios should do this? Because as even I attended the animated features. There was only Rosa Tran, who was the producer of Animalosa. The rest are all male, management level, director level, producer level. So something needs to get done within the industry. Is there an association of women animators, women in live action that needs, I don't know if there's a union. I'm sure there is a union, but on the level of the management, what is the effort, of various studios, or even among the women animators and 3D themselves?
Great, thank you so much. I'm actually not really aware of the diversity plan that you speak of, so I wouldn't be able to comment on that. I can only speak from my experience having been at the studio. I see my department, the lighting department that I'm part of, as pretty diverse, and whether or not that is the result of an initiative or not, or just based on, hiring for talent. I like to think that I was hired to join the studio because they saw a talent in me, not just because of the fact that I am a woman. Though perhaps if that helped, that's great. I do think that diversity is important, and when I look at my company, seems really diverse, and I would hope, that is the case for many other studios. I'm really not sure what they have, in their plans. Of course, I think as a team, it functions much better when you have creative people coming into a project from all walks of life and from all parts of the world and from all different experiences. So I think it can only benefit any team out there that's working on a project to keep it as mixed up as possible. So I hope that answers your question, but that sounds great.
And actually, do the ladies from Women in Animation have anything they might want to add to that question?
Hold on, I got a mic.
Okay.
I got some sound stuff here for you.
No, her answer was pretty amazing. It was really, inspirational, and it was on a positive note, so we have nothing to add to that.
Okay, great.
All right, we've got a question right back here.
Hi, I was wondering, just in the entertainment business in general, have you ever applied for a job or worked for a job where you didn't know if you had all of the skills at that time? Like, did they train you later on, or did you really just go home and study more and just ambitiously go for it?
For me, I would say that entry-level positions, I was never 100% ready. But on the job, if you just really work hard, I had, my basics down, and I got thrown into the ring, and, I just figured my way out, and then every new experience has been better and better. People are there to help you, and if you're smart and you work very hard, and like these other ladies were saying, showing up, also, being organized, communicate with your supervisors, let them know, what you're doing, ask them for more work, ask them for, be very specific with your questions, because if supervisors see that you take the care and you take the time to show that you care about, your assets and making sure that they're clean and they're exactly the way they need to be for the studio, then you're already, halfway there.
I'd like to add to that. When I was first in the industry, my first job as an environment artist was I had trained for 2 years in Maya, and the job was specifically for 3D Studio Max, which I had never even opened. And that was a considerable amount of stress. They already wanted to hire me, but I had to go home and learn it in a matter of a week. I did tell my art director that I wasn't real experienced with it. I didn't completely elaborate on that, but I pretty much, did a fake it till you make it. But I worked really, really hard, and it was a lot of stress. But yeah, every studio is going to use maybe a slightly different pipeline or a different program, and so by switching studios and trying different things, you'll pick up these other programs and learn these new skills and add it to your list of things that you know. But because I took that so seriously that I have to be up and running in this program immediately. My contract was only 3 months to start, and I started with somebody else that was experienced in 3D Studio Max, and at the end of 3 months, they kept me and they didn't keep him. So it's more about diligence and putting the time in to actually take it seriously and learn what it takes to keep moving forward in production, regardless of the tools that you're using.
Awesome. We've got a question right back here, and then we got another one right up front.
Hi, I wanted to ask if you've ever had to deal with any rude or inappropriate comments from men, because I'm sure they're great, and I'm term 1 and all the guys in my term are great, but every once in a while there'll be an inappropriate comment. And do you call them out for it? Do you talk to your supervisors? How do you deal with that?
I have this one. this story has nothing to do with Naughty Dog. This is my small stint before Naughty Dog. I was working freelance at a place I will not name. And it was a very, very small look dev situation. And I had a supervisor who called me sweetheart. I had a director who told me I would need to go home and model my little ass off. And, you know, it's really frustrating because, you know, if it was a man instead of me, they might have, you know, said something to the similar state, but not with that kind of connotation. And when you have $60,000 of Sally Mae breathing down your neck, you don't always have to make the easy choice. You know, you could just say, hey, I'm gonna walk away from this because I'm worth more than that, but then I would no longer be here because I would not have been able to pay my rent and pay my student loans. And I just kind of sucked it up. Occasionally I would take small jabs back at them and, you know, oh, my knee hurts. Oh, maybe it's cancer. Now who's going to go model their sweet little ass off tonight? But no, I tried to keep it really PC because everyone you meet, everyone you interact with is potentially going to lead to your next job. And maybe when you go there, they're not going to treat you like that. And the connections they have are not always a reflection of them. So I did try to keep it PC and kind of wait it out and just keep working until something bigger and more glorious came my way.
Excellent. We've got a question up here.
Hi, thank you. I have a question. I know soft skills came up earlier in the evening. When I was working at a studio, I first started, I was an intern, and I was getting a lot of feedback from some of the other people. I was the only woman in the office, and I noticed that sometimes the information that they were giving me about Maya was wrong, and it wasn't coming from a supervisor, and then they'd follow up on it, and I wasn't quite sure how to say, like, hey, maybe you can back off a little bit. Like, I wasn't quite sure until sort of my art director caught this person in the act and was like, hey, let's not get, but I was wondering if maybe there's an experience that you've had that's similar to that, or you're not quite sure how to deal with bad advice?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think, I mean, in animation at least, we're always getting feedback, and, you know, you choose to take what works for you and what doesn't. Unless it's from the director, then you do it. But otherwise, it's just, you know, you just disregard that and move forward with what makes sense for you and what works for you. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I'd say just probably not say anything and just put it aside. Well, I don't agree with that. Or, you know, sometimes in Maya, you know, there are many multiple ways to do sometimes the same thing. And maybe one person's way is not the best way for you. And, you know, it does happen definitely where somebody says, oh, I do it this way. And it's like, well, that doesn't really make sense for me. I'm not going to outright tell them that, but I'll just kind of do it my own way to achieve the end result.
Yeah, thanks for that tip.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Consider
just
that.
Grin and bear it. Just be pleasant to work with.
Yeah.
Excellent. We've got a question right here.
So I have a senior in high school sitting next to me, and so who definitely wants to be an animator, is looking at computer engineering, all those kinds of things. So as a young woman who was now, you know, sort of pursuing this in college, there's so many different colleges out there, so many different schools. Sort of listening to your experience, so many of you had different ways and paths to get to where you are, some longer than others. Kind of, if you had to step back and kind of go through it again, what would you do differently to, I don't know if it's short circuit, but what is there a different school you would have gone to earlier, or what would you have done differently knowing what you know now, and that advice to young women that are trying to now get into the industry?
Well, I would say that experiences are what make our lives richer. So trying different things when you're younger is, in my mind, completely okay. You know, going to school and figuring out what you want to do. It's really hard to know exactly what you're going to do when you're 17 years old. I certainly didn't, which is why I, you know, did several things. Much like Brooke, I tried a lot of different things, and maybe I could have gotten to where I was going quicker, but as a result, my life is richer of having all these different experiences.
Can I just add to that? I would totally agree with, everything that was just said. In fact, right now I'm working with a lot of people that apparently went to CalArts the same time I'd gone to CalArts, but they were in the animation schools, and I was in the theater school, and I just never bumped into them. And they had went directly from the animation department at CalArts to Disney. And I think to myself, like, what if I had just, gone that path? But I think ultimately, though, I wouldn't have, I wouldn't be where I am without all of my experience in live action. For them to give me the opportunity on Zootopia, I think they saw the confidence in me from all of my past years of work experience. So maybe I could have circumvented or shortened the amount of time it would have taken me to get here, but maybe not. Maybe it could have taken longer. It's definitely been a lot of fun just trying different things and seeing different sides of the industry. So I think there's value in that.
Excellent. We've got a question right back here.
I guess the last question is, considering on how much time and effort it takes to do your professional work, how do you figure out how to have a personal time to do things that you'd like to have for fun and not always constantly meeting deadlines?
I can start. It is a constant struggle to deal with. There's a lot of deadlines, and I'm constantly prioritizing work first because that's where your paycheck comes from. But I do need creative outlets just as much. So anything that I can do, whether it's, okay, this project's over with, I can take a class. This project's over with, I'm going to take a couple days off, staycation, and just sit and do some work on my own. You just kind of have to make the time. It's a lot like, working out. If you prioritize the time, then you're able to do it.
Excellent. We've got a live stream question for you ladies. Whenever you started, did you receive any training at any of these studios, or was it just like, let's get to work? And if you did receive any type of training, what was it? What did you view? How long were you able to train before you actually expected to produce?
For myself, pretty much at every job I did, I needed to be almost ready to hit the ground running within the first week. Usually training just involved pipeline, getting an understanding of their naming conventions, where everything was located, the hierarchy, how we needed to handle, well, this is the process with these assets. And that was the majority of the training. But regarding programs and other things like that, we needed to be mostly ready to go. But of course, there's a certain amount of on-the-job training that you can expect. You're going to learn as you go, even if you know most of it before starting.
Yeah, totally. Does anybody else like to answer some of that?
So at Disney, because I began at the studio as a trainee, there's a 3-month, so the whole program when I was there was 6 months long. Now it's 9 months. So we had 3 months of mentorship training to learn the proprietary tools in the pipeline before we started production. I'd say that's definitely a softer landing. For new lighting artists, though, if you're just hired as a lighting artist into the studio, the training period is much shorter. So I guess you are expected to hit the ground running much faster.
Yeah, I had a week of training at Sony. Yeah. Which was fine because there's people all around you that can answer questions when you have them. So it's really just enough to get you kind of familiar with the characters you're going to be working with and how the studio works, the pipeline, stuff like that. So.
Excellent. We've got another live stream question here. Has any of you ladies ever thought about starting your own company? And if so, what's your process been? Kind of walk us through that.
Definitely thought about that before. It is something that I feel like many schools are missing nowadays, is teaching you how to, open your own business, know how to administrate and things like that. Obviously, I didn't had that happen yet, but it is definitely one of my goals in the future, most likely.
Excellent. And we've got another live streaming question, and we're going to start wrapping up. If any audience has any more questions, definitely now's the time to do that, because we're going to start winding down. One of the live streaming questions is, what's the difference between switching from like game production to film production? That's pretty commonplace. Was that pretty hard for you? What's your process? What's your thoughts on that?
That was honestly one of the most intimidating factors for me. I was not one of my fellow students who had ever even opened Unreal. I had no experience working in a game engine, and I always hear people saying, oh, it's easy to go from games to film, but it's really hard to go from films to games because of the management. I know that there's render times, and all these things kind of add up to the length of time it renders, but when you make games, you have a budget. Like, it can only be so big to even fit on a disc, and your level is one little tiny part of that. And it's definitely, it was scary because I didn't know how to use a game engine. I had never used asset management tools, and I was really grateful that people around me were really helpful. All of the leads were really helpful. All of my other coworkers were really helpful. I had a notebook, and I just asked tons and tons and tons of questions, because if you know the basics and you know the foundations, all of the other stuff you can learn. Technology is going to continue to change. The developments are going to continue to change, but the foundations never do.
Excellent, excellent. And I guess we've got time for one last live stream question, and then we're going to wrap things up. Everybody's worked in film, they've worked in commercials, they've worked in games. Now with virtual reality and augmented reality on the forefront, what are your views? Where do you think that's going? Do you think that's going to have a place?
Excited about it. I think it's just one more form of entertainment, and it's going to be a lot of fun, when people start getting their hands on it and see what it's like. I had one experience at SciOp where I worked on a VR project, and it was a lot of fun putting those goggles on and just being in that world. I'm not sure how it's going to play out, but and hopefully kids do go outside and still play in the real world after it becomes a thing. But yeah, I think it'll be fun. It'll just enhance, the entertainment industry, and it'll be just another way to enjoy your free time. So
I think that people who work in games right now are going to have a big advantage when that happens. Everything will be rendered in real time.
Yeah.
So
I think that there's also a really strong application for it in other standards of training. Even when I was in school, way back in the day, people were using virtual reality to train first responders, like having situations where they could do CPR on people and assess, like, are you critical? Are you stable? And I think that that's going to continue to grow, especially even in the medical industry, being able to train in an even more lifelike situation than human cadavers that don't really bleed. And I think that that's going to be really exciting.
Excellent. Well, looks like is there any last thoughts anyone want to share before we close our show? Any last questions from the audience?
There's one.
We got one? All right, we got one out here.
Hey, so obviously this industry is pretty difficult, and most of you have been working like contract on and off. How do you feel that influences your life long term? Like having children, getting married, medical issues, do you worry about that?
I worry about that a lot, actually. I am married. I just bought a house, and it kind of freaks me out to know that, if I lose a job, how I'm going to find another one. But really, I think that as long as you do the best you can do, people are always going to be interested in you, and especially if you put your work out there, people are going to see it. So, it's going to be fine. So just go with the flow.
Can I add to that? I just want to say, too, I think it's really important that you just sort of move forward with your life. If you want to have a baby, have a baby. There aren't a lot of women, there aren't as many women, at least, as men in this industry, but and the work can be tough sometimes on that aspect of life. But I think, you just got to keep living your life and doing what you want to do. And eventually it will all adjust, and will, it will be the norm that women are having babies in this industry and, pursuing their careers, and it'll be fine. So
yeah, I'd actually like to add to that also, because My husband is also in the industry, and we met in school, and now we have a 2-year-old and are expecting another one. And so, yeah, like Brooke said, you just have to move forward with your life and allow for life events to happen, allow for that, you know, wedding to happen. I can remember when I was in gaming, it was, you know, something came up where my art director at the time made me feel like I couldn't go to this family friend's funeral, and I thought, no, you have to be able to have life events. You know, these things happen, and it's important that we're present in our own lives and not let work take over, because ultimately, it's going to be okay if you miss a day of work for something, or, you know, things come up and you have to allow time for that.
And those experiences will only enrich your work, too. So I think, you know, live your lives.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much. Just hold your applause right now, if you would. And I just want to let you know that we have registration now for our spring term that starts April 11th. If you'd like a tour of our awesome facility, then definitely let us know after the meeting. Our panelists, ourselves here at Gnomon, are going to be available after this event. Come and talk to us if you want more information. Definitely, we've got events like this every week. If you're in the industry and you want to do an event, you want to do a demo, you want to do a panel Q&A, just like the one that our wonderful ladies did today, then definitely let us know. Email suggestions to us for events at events@gnomon.edu. A huge thanks to our guests tonight, Women in Animation, our panel guest tonight, and our guest host, Carolyn Giardina. And thank you so much, everyone, for coming out. That's a wrap. Let's give it a big, gigantic hand for our guests tonight. Thank you so much. And that's it.